and I will share my screen. Welcome to the December 17th, 2020 Open edX online community meetup. We have these events once each month, most months. We are always looking for interesting topics to present. If you have something that you would like to tell the Open edX community, get in touch. You can send us an email. You can find the previous events on YouTube and on our wiki. We often discuss them in our discussion forums at discuss.openedx.org. There's lots of ways to find us. So if you have something that you would like to tell the community, we would like to hear about it and put you up in front of people. As much as possible, we would like this to be a community event with presentations from the community. Today is a little different. We've got a presentation from edX itself, but mostly it's the community talking to other people in the community. The community has a code of conduct which governs all of our interactions when we can get back together face-to-face, but even online. You can find that at the URL on the screen, openedx.org/code of conduct. If at any time when you're dealing with the Open edX community, if something doesn't seem right, please get in touch with the Open edX community managers so that we can try to put things right. We want the community to feel welcoming and productive for everyone. So let us know if something doesn't seem right to you in any way. A lot of our asynchronous communication is in our discourse forum at discuss.openedx.org. These events are mentioned there, people looking for technical help, people looking for course ideas, people looking for collaborators, or if they're looking to hire people or looking for jobs. There's all sorts of community discussions happening there. So it's a good place to put your ideas, find collaborators of all sorts. For synchronous communications, we have a Slack workspace, which you can find via our Community Connect URL on the openedx.org site. And of course, we have the usual social media, a blog, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can hook up with any of those that appeal to you and stay in touch with what we're doing in the Open edX community. For the first topic I wanted to tell you about today, you may have noticed a slightly different look to these slides. Those bold colors, there's some new typography down there in the lower right is a brand new Open edX logo. edX rebranded this week on Tuesday. We are leaning into the slogan that restless learners change the world. And we've redesigned our logo to give it more energy, a little bit more modern look, a much bolder presentation style that you're seeing here. But a lot of things haven't changed. So the mission is still the same. The vision as a global nonprofit, edX is relentlessly pursuing our vision of a world where every learner can access education to unlock their potential without the barriers of cost or location. And that's slightly different words, but basically the idea that we've been working on for the last 8 or 9 years to bring education to the whole world. And being a nonprofit and being open source is a big part of that. I like to say that edX not only gives away education, we give away the tools to give away education. So there are 1,000 other sites around the world that are running Open edX software to do their own online education. And that's personally, that's my passion. That's a big part of why I'm at edX, is that open source mission, but it's also a big part of why a lot of other people are at edX, even if they aren't actually working directly on the Open edX team. And these slides I've taken from the edX pitch deck, which is much longer. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I wanted to point out that edX is energetically restating their mission as part of their rebranding. Here's a slide about the edX movement and what it's made possible by and how it reaches a global population of learners. And in particular, I want to point out that edX explicitly is mentioned on this slide twice. And there's not a lot of stuff on this slide, but in one crisp statement of what edX is about and what makes it possible and what they're hoping to achieve, Open edX is mentioned twice. It's a big part of what we're all doing here. A lot of edX is focused very directly on the edX.org website and the courses and partners and learners that are there, and that's great. But the fact that it gets out to the Open edX community is a very, very important part of what we're trying to do. So as part of the rebranding, edX also has a new look. You can see the edX logo in the lower left of this slide. But we have the same mission that we've always had. So as part, just to give you a look at the logo, the new look, we've got the edX logo in a few different variants that you'll see all over the place. We've taken, as we did with the previous logo, we took the edX logo and adapted it to get the word open in there and the powered by edX logo that will appear at the bottom of websites. And just to complete our tour of the logos, there's also the white variants for use in monochrome settings. So you'll see this all over now. Hopefully you won't see the old logo anywhere. If you do see one, let us know. We spent a feverish couple of hours in the middle of Tuesday trying to change every logo everywhere. And I think we did a pretty good job, but there's probably one or two outliers. Then if you find one, let us know and we can fix it up. Or if you need help with your own site that uses the edX logo, we would very much love for you to switch over to the new look so that we have a uniform statement of the brand worldwide. And if you need help with that, different assets or whatever, get in touch with us and we'll help. But as I said, we have a new look, but it's the same mission. So if I could briefly state the community mission for 2021, and I should say, I think in January, maybe the next community meetup, we're going to have a fuller look back at what happened in 2020 and what we are hoping to do in 2021. But just for now, as a quick statement, the community mission for 2021 is going to take what we did in 2020, which was a lot of great energy and collaboration, and expand on it. So we want to grow the size of the community. We want to give the community more responsibility. We want to give them some more transparency, a little bit more collaboration on the direction of the entire mission. We've done a lot of that in 2020, and we want to do even more of that in 2021. So to wrap up the branding and mission and vision statement, it's a new look with some new words, but it's the same idea, right? If this were a consumer product, we would say new look, same great taste on the can. We're here to spread education. We appreciate your help with it. We want to help you spread education wherever you want to spread education. And we're looking forward to collaborating with you even more in 2021 to make it happen. Any comments, questions? Did I leave anything out that I should have said about all that? Logo, people like the logo? Yes, personally, I'm a big fan of the logo. I'm always a late adopter to everything. My first reaction to every new thing is probably I hate it. And this, just struck me immediately as this is a really nice rebranding. And I was kind of astounded how quickly the old logo seemed really dated. So I love the new logo. I love the new look. As I was making these slides, I was really excited to be putting words on these kinds of graphics because it's just very energetic and nice. So I'm looking forward to seeing that spread throughout the community in 2020. Okay, the next big bullet. So last week, was it just last week, December 9th, 8 days ago, we released COA. So COA is the 11th edX community release. We've released, we named them after trees, and we're up to K. We started at Aspen and we've gotten to Koa. Koa is a Hawaiian tree, if you haven't heard of it. It was actually a personal request from one of the earliest engineers at edX who grew up in Hawaii that we choose Koa as the K name. And I didn't know any other tree names that started with K, so sure, that was an easy pick. So Koa was released last week. And Marco is going to be talking to us in detail about what's actually in Koa, but before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the process that got us to Koa. And on this slide, I call it Koa by BTR. BTR is the Build, Test, Release Working Group, which is a group of community members, some of whom are here in the meeting today. And this is part of edX's approach to open source, where we try to identify the things that are primarily of value to the community and not as much to edX itself, and try to give the community ownership of those things and let them be self-directed in how those things get done and get made. The community releases, interestingly enough, edX is the largest adopter of Open edX. We run the largest site with 3,000 courses and 150 institutions or whatever it is, but we don't actually use the community releases. We update our production servers every day with the latest code that have been written by engineers or merged from the community every day. So when Koa came out, it didn't change how edX was running software, but it does change how the community is running software. And so what we've been trying to do is, because the community releases are for the community, we also want them to be by the community. And the build, test, release working group is the focus of that energy. And those people, there are maybe a dozen of them all told, have been working since June when Juniper came out, and even before then on Juniper, working to make the process a little bit more intentional, a little bit more disciplined, to say what's important in the release and what isn't, and basically to be the stewards of the community release to make sure it comes out the way the community wants it to come out. And I've been very pleased with the progress that that group has made in owning that process and that product. So Koa is the 11th release. And one of the things that I was especially pleased with is that when Juniper came out in June, it had been 17 months since the release before it, Ironwood. And that was due to some technical considerations. It was a little bit out of our hands, but it was kind of out of our hands because we let it get out of our hands. And what we decided for Koa was we want to ship every 6 months. And so we chose December 9th as the date for the release because it was exactly 6 months after the date that Juniper came out on June 9th. And we shipped Koa on December 9th. So we said we were going to do it in 6 months, and we did it in 6 months to the day. And that pleases me a great deal. So we're back on a 6-month release cadence, which, by the way, was the original intention for the Open edX community releases, but for a variety of reasons, didn't happen. So now we're back on a 6-month release cadence, and we're going to stick to it. And with the help of the community working group is how we managed to do it. So that pleases me a great deal, that we could collaborate and we can hit that goal. Next up, the next release is going to be called Lilac. That's always the most common question when a release comes up. What's the next tree? The next tree is Lilac. And if you really want to know, after that is Maple, Nutmeg, and Olive. So for Lilac, what we're going to get is we're going to get even more community ownership. At the moment, we're rethinking the entire technical foundation of the installation. We might be fully Dockerized by the time of Lilac. Everyone wants to be. We'll see whether we can get there. And we're going to ship it on June 9th, 2021. So it's always a little tricky predicting the future, but I'm going to put that out here right now. 6-month release cadence means that Lilac is coming out on June 9th, 2021. You heard it here first. You can hold me to it. If you'd like to get involved, the discourse forum is a great place to do it. There's a category in there in discourse for the working group. I've given a short URL to it here, but you can find it if you just go to discuss.openedx.org and look at the categories. And we're always looking for new members. You do not have to be a technical expert. Many of the members of the working group are especially focused on the question of how can we upskill new contributors. We all know that the code is technically complicated, so it's a little hard to get started, but there are people there who are very excited to have new people come up and say, I need help getting started. How can I get started? And they will help you. So get involved, help us out with Lilac, and can help us make the next release just as awesome as the previous release was. Any questions or comments or thoughts about that? No, I'm doing everything myself, right? Marco, you're going to help me eventually, right? Right, okay. All right, since we talked about working groups, so the working groups have been a great way to focus the efforts of the community. A lot of what happens in the community are individual pull requests to the code, but that's not a great way to get other non-code things done. So the build, test, release working group has taken on stewardship of the community releases. Another working group is the marketing working group. That's another area where, well, marketing Open edX isn't exactly in line with edX's business, but it's right at the center of the business of the 40 or 50, however many there are, service providers that we have out there. So let's get a group of them together and talk about how we are marketing Open edX. We can learn from each other what messages work, what people are looking for, maybe put some effort into building out the resources that we can use to market it. And the marketing working group has been doing a great job. If you go to openedx.org, now you can see a benefits matrix, which clearly lays out the multifaceted set of features that are available in Open edX. And that was put together by one of the members of the marketing working group from EduNext, and that was great. That's, community, it's for the community and it's by the community. So we've got those two working groups which are running smoothly, but I'm wondering what else can we do in a working group? So if you've got an idea of something that you wish existed in the Open edX world, and maybe it's just, an educators forum or a set of best practices for something, or I don't know whatever it is, we could make another working group and we can get something going. So we're excited that 2020 proved out this model of the community coming together to focus on something and produce tangible results that benefit the whole community that isn't code. And we'd like to see that replicated in other areas. So get in touch with us and we can work out how to get other working groups going. Like I said, I expect in January we're going to have a more leisurely overview of what's happened in 2020. We'd like to explain the specific efforts we've put out there and what our plans are for 2021. But for now, that'll, I think, cover the gist of it. Marco, are you ready?
Yes. You may need to enter and exit the slides, but we are
right.
Good to go.
All right, so let me get out of there. Do this. So I am switching over, whoops. Okay. That look right?
That looks great.
So you'll tell me when to advance, I guess, right?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for all the setup, Ned. I'm here to talk about what is in COA in more details.
Marco, who are you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Marco Morales. I'm on the product team at edX, which I'll get into in a second. And just like Ned, I've been here from the very early days, working with you all in various ways. So very excited to share the update of COA and a preview of what is included in this release. Let's go to the next slide, Ned. So this slide is here most sort of call out that there are many people's work I'm about to represent, including many people in the community. So contributions and other things that have emerged to the platform as well since the last release. So that's the thing I want to definitely lead with. But otherwise, we can go on to the next step and sort of dive into what parts of COA are we really going to cover today. So if you look at the platform and all the different components of the platform, what we've begun to do is sort of organize our release notes into these 5 areas. What are the changes that are impacting the learner experience? What are the changes that impact educators? And those are the 2 that we're going to cover in more detail today. So there's 3 other areas: the administrator experience, researcher and data experiences, and then developer experiences. And there'll be a lot more detail in the release notes and all the linked things that we're looking to publish soon. More on that in a bit. But for now, what I'm going to cover today is focused on the learner and educator side of things. So just want to provide that context about what fraction of COA we're looking at. There's a lot that changed in the developer experience for sure. We may be able to go into a deep dive for those things at a future session, but that's just some orientation. Otherwise, we can go ahead and get started. Starting first with educators, I want to call out 2 themes for us from this last release. So these are themes that won't be accomplished in any given one release. These are kind of ongoing things that we care about. And so the 2 that I want to call out here are helping educators build courses efficiently and helping people teach learners at scale. So these 2 sort of facets of a similar coin, I guess, to dive into. So 3 things here on the course efficiency side to call out. I'll dive into some of these in more detail as well, but the one that I'm just going to do an initial basic intro of is a new early version of a new library authoring experience is now on the platform. So we've talked in the past about Blockstore, which is our new content storage mechanism, and this new library authoring experience is backed by that capability. Lots more to come between now and Lilac as well, but for those that are interested in library authoring, content tagging, taxonomies, please get in touch with the edX team because there's more work we're doing here. On the Aura side, I'll get to a deep dive into Aura in a second, but I'm going to quickly cover some of the teach, learner at scale items. So first on the proctoring side. So one of the themes of a lot of the work in the previous release and this release has to do with the fact that behind the scenes, we're creating new micro front ends to power these new experiences. So the proctoring improvements that we've delivered are actually an example of this. So there is a new micro front end that is a course authoring micro front end, but the studio experience is very large. It will take us a good deal of time to modernize that and move that into a micro front end. So we're doing it incrementally, page by page. The first page to move into this new course authoring micro front end is a view that lets course teams select their proctoring provider and have more visibility into those configurations in one place. So proctored exam settings are now in this new view. And to the educators, it looks like it's a part of Studio. It's in another tab in Studio. But behind the scenes, it's actually a new micro front end that will eventually become larger over time. A related update here is we've made some improvements to identity verification, removing some of the core usability issues and gaps that were resulting in learners getting stuck in this process for any instance that uses identity verification as part of their offering. So this is also an addition to the account micro front end. So for those running the account micro front end, you'll be able to take advantage of that. Finally, another update to cover here is expanded support for LTI. So for those not familiar with LTI, it's a specification that IMS Global puts out for dropping in and embedding interactive learning content, no matter what your platform. So it's a very broadly used standard. And the latest specification, V1.3, is now supported in the platform. So that's the updates for these items. What I'm going to do a deeper dive on next, if you can go to the next slide, Ned, is Aura. So open response assessments have received a pretty long list of updates in the COA release. And for those not familiar with open response assessments, these are the 5th most commonly used block type on edX.org at least. So I'm curious to get guesses from the audience on what people think are the top 4 that are more commonly used than Aura. You can just sort of drop that into the chat and we'll see if we can get all 4 of them. So video is definitely near the top of that list. Hint on the near the top of the list. Text, absolutely the number 1. Text, video, and then interestingly, so a number of people are suggesting multiple choice, checkbox. So I'm actually cheating a little bit and saying that all Kappa problems are one problem type. And so that basically forms the first 3 video text problems. The 4th most commonly used type no one's guessed yet, so I'll spoil it, which is the discussion. Oh, there we go. Look, just in time.
Right there at the wire.
See, that's why you like crowdsource these things. So yeah, discussion is the 4th most commonly used block type, and open response assessment is next. So a number of improvements to this experience, mostly focused in usability and in the management or moderation of Aura. So a couple quick items to sort of flag here. So we've added details to the Aura report that you can download from the data downloads tab. We used to show anonymous IDs and sort of not the easiest naming convention for the problem location, and it made offline triage for the Aura problems more difficult. So we've improved that. We've also added a feature to allow course teams to actually download all Aura submissions, which allows instructors to grade offline. There are some instructors that still want to print out responses, grade online, offline, give feedback that way. And this feature will not only download the submission text, but any attached files that were included in the submission, and gives you a directory locally that you can review all the submissions from. So that has also been added to the platform. I'll take a look at questions in a sec. So good question. So one of the other updates, question here from Zach about the difference between open response assessment and peer and self. So what we're looking at here in the visual is there's a new green block that we've added called open response. So previously, to add an open response block, you had to go into the problem area and find open response and add open response. So open response assessments is the umbrella term that we give for any problem that uses rubric-based assessment to grade students. And you can add self-assessment, peer training, or staff assessment to these Aura blocks, and you can organize those steps however you want, but they're all based on around a rubric that students get scored against. So what you can see here is if you press the green button in Studio that says open response, you're shown this list of templates. So if you click open response assessment, it's just like it was in the past, where you just get the generic example open response assessment. If you click peer assessment, you'll get an open response assessment that's already set up to only have peer assessment enabled. So it's a minor sort of speed up, but it's also providing more visibility into the fact that there's all these options inside open response assessment, and really elevating the visibility of this problem type as one of the most used problem types. It was sort of being buried in the list. So that kind of rounds out all but one of the updates to Aura that I want to call out. Actually, that's not true. There's a couple more. So there's also a recent contribution that allows staff to set a limit on number of files if you're uploading files as part of your submission. So that's something that came in through a community contribution. And then finally, some quick updates here. On the learner side, learners now see a message that gives them a summary of their grading status. So it lets them know in the grading section of an Aura problem if they're still waiting for peer reviews, or if their grade is determined still by staff assessment and they haven't received that yet. So a little bit more clarity there, hopefully to reduce some of the questions that instructors have to deal with it directly. And then finally, we found that particularly for course teams that use peer review, there are learners that will occasionally get stuck in peer review. The way peer review works is other students give you input into your grade, and then your grade is the median of those scores. But if there's not enough students, or you're caught in a situation where you've been waiting for a long time for other reviews, you can't get a grade. So we introduced a feature called Enable Flexible Peer Grading Averaging. So learners can basically, if they've been waiting for over a week, be given a grade if they already have at least a third of the expected peer reviews. So it's just a way for educators to opt to give learners who are waiting some sort of feedback and response sooner rather than later. So that's a bit of a deep dive into Aura, a lot of changes there. Next, I'm going to move us to...
Marco, there are two other questions about Aura, but maybe we should take them at the end, or?
Good question. So yeah, I can answer these quickly. One of these I'll actually get to in a second. So Zach's question about whether open response assessment can be auto-graded using machine learning. So open response assessment does have some support for machine or model-based scoring. We've been calling that instead of machine scoring. We don't use that currently on edX.org. We previously used an engine that we built for that. We are considering sort of bringing that back into the platform in 2021. So if there's interest, please reach out. But that is, Aura is connected to the machine learning work in the past. So that you're right in that connection there. And then we'll get to sort of Android and iOS application support in a second. Well, actually, you know what, maybe I'll just cover it here. Because of a community contribution, we actually now have mobile support for open response assessment. So actually the latest version of the edX app recently enabled that. Sorry, that's Alexa telling me something. I don't know why.
You
Okay.
could just get Alexa to answer the questions.
Yeah, I should have tried that. That message keeps happening every like 20 minutes, so hopefully not again.
Okay.
All right, we can move on to the next section, I think. And this is the next bit is focused on learners. So want to talk through a couple of these updates. So the first thing is around better supporting learners in the course experience. And the second theme we want to call out is helping learners celebrate their accomplishments. And these are two of the main areas to call out for COA. So first, and we can go actually to the next slide here, Ned. So the first thing here is helping learners plan their learning with an improved dates experience. So behind the scenes, basically, edX has, I think anytime I say edX, you heard as Alexa. So this is going to be a very tricky update, but we'll see how we get through this. So there are two types of pacing modes on the platform. There's instructor-paced courses and self-paced courses. So in self-paced courses, you can leave a course open and available for people to instantly join a course. But one of the downsides of this approach is that a lot of the structure in the dates and deadlines that learners expect in courses can be missing. So with the personalized learning schedule feature, what happens is when a learner enters a course, they're given suggested deadlines based on the expected course duration. So if the course is expected to last 12 weeks, the dates they're shown are from their moment of enrollment in their self-paced course based on what we're expecting you'd need to complete in order to complete the course within that 12-week timeline. If learners miss those dates, they're able to shift their due dates, as you see with the messaging that's sort of shown up here. So it still provides flexibility, but it gives you some sort of recommendations and suggestions throughout the experience. So this has been a huge lift and win for us on the engagement side and completion rate in self-paced courses. So really excited about this. Okay. I can't tell actually if people can hear that. Maybe you can or can't hear.
A little, yeah.
Okay, it's just very loud for me. But anyways, we'll go on to the next slide if we could. So one of the things I'm really excited to talk about is this is a feature that we've actually been able to carry through not just to the desktop experience, but also into the mobile apps. So there's now support for personalized learning schedules as well in the mobile application. And you are shown messages about these sort of this learning schedule. And the dates tab inside the course area of the mobile applications is now powered by a native experience. We used to just sort of render the web view of your dates, and now it's powered natively, so it has a lot more rich sort of detail and all the different assignments and all the things that are happening in the course. We previously only showed you like course start and course end and those kinds of dates in the dates tab, and now it's a lot more detailed at the assignment level. So that covers the sort of learners are supported part of what I wanted to talk about in COA. So the next slide is around learner accomplishments. So celebratory milestones is also something that we've added into the platform. And so this is something that we found helps motivate learners to continue in the course. It's something that learners may use to sort of share progress externally. So they may actually post this to LinkedIn or Twitter or other things. So in this case here, you see this celebratory milestone is focused on earning the course certificate. And there's a sort of actual like animated celebration there that you can see and sort of prompts to share this on LinkedIn or view your certificate. So more to come certainly on these progress milestones, but also a big win for us so far. So next, I think that's what I had for the recap for the learner and educator experience. Next up, approximately right before this meeting, I believe I finished the final draft of the release notes. And so that means that Ned and I will be working to publish this documentation on the Open edX release notes site, which you can see is rather empty right now.
And has an old logo at the top. I noticed that's one we missed.
Yeah, I did see that there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But as I pasted the screenshot. So So yeah, so that's the quick recap. As I mentioned, we just covered learner and educator. There's more under the hood here, especially in developer experiences. But with that, I'll move it out to any other Q&A that I have not covered.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Marco. Any questions from anyone? We can take questions about Koa. We should start with questions if you have them about Koa or the features. If there's something that you expected to see in this list but didn't see and think maybe we just didn't get to it rather than didn't get it into Koa, ask about that. Or we can take any other questions, or I can go back outside and shovel some more. That's what's in my afternoon, I think. Yes, Zachary, Koa is live now. It is 8 days old now. It is the currently supported release of Open edX. Ironwood, Juniper is no longer supported. And Koa runs on Ubuntu 20.04. Yes, only 20.04. It will not install on 16.04. At least we do not provide a way to install it on 16.04. So Marco, you've got a question about gamification.
Got it. So I think certainly, like in terms of gamification, there are more things in the celebratory milestones and sort of dates, things that are along those lines. There's nothing specifically planned that I'm aware of. Like I said, other than generally speaking, pushing more on the progress milestones. I don't have any additional detail, but I can follow up with the team there. In terms of the new open assessment button, Pierre, I'll have to double check that. It may be that the latest version of the Aura X block may need to be the one that is currently loaded in your instance. So this is an example of a case where it's less about the edX platform code and more about making sure that you're using the latest version of the Aura X block, which would show you. Oh, actually.
And so as I remember, there had been some significant changes to the Aura X block past the version that we pinned for Koa. But when I did not update it to the most recent Aura X block, just because we were trying to be conservative about making late-breaking changes in Koa. The good news is that it's probably pretty simple to take the latest Aura and use it in Koa, even if it doesn't install that way out of the box.
Yeah, that's a good call out. I double checked, and this I believe is a change that merged to the Aura X block 16 days ago. So the merge was delayed. So we'll follow up on that. But as Ned said, the latest version of the X block, if that's what you're using, would include it. Any other questions?
Other questions? All right. Is the discussion and forum still under development?
Aha. So I do have an update that I can share for the discussion forums for those interested in following along the project. So I'll give a quick recap there. We're in the middle of a very pretty major overhaul of the discussion experience. It's something that I can do a deep dive of next time as well. But the summary that I'll give for this is that we are providing support for two different major aspects of discussions. The first one is we are making it easier to integrate third-party discussion forums. So what this means is that in Studio, you'll have a new place to go that lets you see all of the applications that you've enabled for your course. So discussions, textbooks, wiki, notes, teams, in one place, centrally be able to say whether it's enabled or disabled. This should clean up a number of advanced settings and other things. But for discussions specifically, if you go in and configure discussions, you will be able to use the current edX discussions experience, the new edX discussion experience that we're building, that I'll talk about in a second, or other LTI integrations like Piazza and YellowDig. We're also looking to support EdSTEM and Discourse as part of this, but in that experience in Studio, educators would be able to see which features are supported by which discussion forum provider. So if you use a third-party tool, they may have basic support for Open edX, but they may not support the team's experience. They may not support cohorts. They may not support data passback. And so educators can sort of understand what the integration will enable for them. And in the future, we hope that these third-party tools we can work with to actually help them get to higher levels of support, so they can support all those other bells and whistles. So we get lots of options for fully supported discussion forums. That's the first half of the discussions update. The second half of this is that we're also, as I alluded to earlier, rebuilding the edX discussion forum UI experience. It's a new micro front end with brand new navigation, updated moderation tools, and improved sort of core experience around the commenting, responding, and posts. So I know that update is not very specific, but I plan to share more updates and discourse in the coming weeks, and can give people early visibility into that. Okay, deep dive on discussions.
Quite a backlog of questions now. There's one about the notifications module, which is described as very limited.
Yep. It's a good question. So notifications is something that we're exploring for 2021. I don't have an update on that right now. The only thing to flag is that we've been making expanded use of edX ACE, which is the automated communication engine. I forget what the A stands for, but ACE now powers a number of our other email updates and things. So outside of that update, so notifications via email, there's nothing else that I have to share right now for that one. Certainly, if there's members of the community interested in supporting or contributing or improving that, would love to chat. That's the update there.
We've got a question about the courseware micro front end that's available for COA. Is some of that recommended to work with Juniper also?
It's a good question. So we originally announced the course Learning MFE in Juniper. Some of the updates I talked today about in terms of celebratory milestones, personalized learning schedules, those are both in the micro front end as of COA. So there's more work to do to get to full support and making it really easy out of the box to get all MFEs to be a part of deployments for Open edX. So we're still working on that. But we're for edX.org, we're at the point where we're crossing off the things we need to do, the features we need to support to be able to fully move to the course micro front end for all cases. So that new micro front end does not yet support proctoring, for example, and timed exams. There's a number of other things that we're still working on. So more to come in Lilac there. That's an area we're pretty heavily investing. The team, for example, is currently rebuilding the course homepage into the micro front end. So that's close to being done, but wasn't ready for COA, but will be in Lilac.
Will the release notes include instructions on how to set up and configure the self-paced schedule feature?
Yeah, so we'll be able to link to the documentation for that as well. We'll keep sort of improving here, but we've done a better job this time around of linking in context in the release notes to relevant other documentation, or in certain cases, GitHub pages to further explain some of the details there. So that should be there, but if not, you can reach out to us and we'll be able to flag where that documentation is.
One of the questions is, what about new video pipeline? And I'm not sure what about it they're asking.
It's a good question. So one of the things that I can flag about the video pipeline, well, you know what, I may need to follow up with the team on that one. So there is work we did in the video pipeline. We had open sourced our what we called VEDA, V-E-D-E-A, I forget what the acronym was, which was sort of how we transcoded our videos so that they worked for adaptive streaming on mobile. And we've now replaced that with another library, which is, I think it's video encoding management, VEM, edX VEM. I'm not sure if that's yet fully open sourced and available. So I'll have to follow up with the team. But
what's happening to Insights?
Insights. So it's a good question. So mostly what we've been working on the data side, and this is again, one of the updates that would have been in the researcher and data sort of update. behind the scenes, we've been working on sort of improved and cleaned up data infrastructure based on Snowflake. edX has different sort of scale. I said edX again. edX has different scale implications, so this may not be applicable to very many other instances, but we haven't made any changes to the actual front end of Insights in a long while. So I have no update right now on that. And if there are community members that want to work on that or want to make improvements, modernize that and move that over to a micro front end, we're happy to talk, but more and advise, but no updates here right now.
Courseware MFE, there's a question that just says, and Courseware MFE, question mark?
So the what I referenced earlier, which is like the course or learning MFE, course learning MFE, that's the same as the Courseware MFE. So the whole course experience is a pretty major investment. It's let's see, edX / front end app learning. So that's the GitHub repository that you need to find the latest and learn more about that one.
What about analytics and learner tracking? I guess that goes back to the Insights question.
Yeah, very similar. So no other update from me right now. I think whenever we do the next update with the developer experience and details, there may be more to share there, but I'm not able to comment any further because I'm not aware of what has changed.
So why did the edX logo change? I know this is from someone who got here late. So I talked a little bit about it. Mainly, we just wanted to modernize and energize the logo. And we adopted a new slogan, restless learners change the world. And this logo looks much more restless and energetic than the old one did. It's also not typography from the 1970s, which is always an advantage in the bustling internet world.
Yeah, and there's definitely more details in the first third or so of the call that'll be available in the recording as well.
Right, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of the call that there's a new edX impact report out that touches on some of these things also, and we should get the link. We should put it in Discourse, actually, a link to the impact report to let people know. So I'll be doing that. Any updates on running production OpenEdX in Docker? So that is a big thing that the build test release working group is going to be working on for Lilac. We're trying to figure out how best to get there. We can't promise that it'll be there in the Lilac timeframe, but I promise you that many, many people will be disappointed if we don't get there in that timeframe. So there'll be lots of people working hard to get there. And definitely, if you would like to help with the Docker question, come and join us in the build test release working group. There's lots of ways to participate, and we are always looking for more expertise and in the trenches experience with these technologies. Is the new MFE support accessibility as well?
That's a good question. So one of the big things that is connected to the micro front end updates is that all of them are using our Paragon design system. So increasingly, as we convert pages over to micro front ends, we're also benefiting from the fact that we have shared reusable components in the Paragon library. If you've not taken a look at Paragon, I can provide a link to it here as well in a second. All those components have accessibility sort of considered from day one. So accessibility support should be even better and even further along than what it's been on the platform. Broadly speaking, the platform conforms to and supports WCAG 2.1. That's not uniformly true on some of the educator experiences and pages and things. But yeah, as we move to more and more pages to Paragon, it'll level up accessibility even more.
Let's see. Does the documentation show how to properly set up a micro front end on AWS CloudFront? I'm not sure of all those specifics, but definitely there are people who are setting up MFEs. The out-of-the-box installation does not get you running with the MFEs because it's a little bit more involved to get the configuration going. But there are people who can help with how to do that, and we are going to be improving that out-of-the-box experience for Lilac. And I provided one more link to the BTR group category in discuss.openedx.org, which is the best place to find the online discussions and announcements of the meetings, if you would like to get involved. And Marco has just provided a link to the Paragon. Any last thoughts? We've had a packed agenda here. I know people are always interested to hear what's new in the release, so thank you for coming out. I'm pleased to see everyone here. We can continue all these discussions in the discussion forum. That would be the ideal place for it, so that we can get answers from people who are not here at the moment. And Nad asks about discussion about switching the community installation to Tutor. So you seem to be up to date with the latest news, because I think that only got posted in the last week. That's where the discussion is centered now, on moving the community installation to some form of Docker. Definitely join those conversations if you have an opinion. The updates will happen in discuss.openedx.org. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone for being part of the Open edX community, part of our mission. The interest that you've shown just by being here is why Open edX as a mission can succeed to spread education around the world, which is why we're all here. It makes me very happy to think that the things I'm working on every day are reaching out into the world and lifting people up with education. I will see you in the new year. I hope everyone stays happy and safe. I don't know when we'll be able to get back together face to face, but I'm hoping it's going to be someday soon. Thank you all for coming. This recording will be online later. Tell your friends. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.